it happens very often that we women talk the last, but we know what to say, so we'll compensate, huh? I want to start actually by thanking the School for Journalism and Public Relations for bringing us into this project. We've been friends and colleagues for 20 years almost, and it's been a fantastic experience. That's my first point. Second point is, as you can see, Alexander and myself, we have very Slavic names. He is not Scottish, I'm not English, but we are both British, and we both have dual nationalities, which is practical and helpful in many situations. The idea of Media Diversity Institute to propose Alexander for this final closing conference comes from what actually Laurie called knowing the context. We can't talk well about certain area, region, if we don't know how that region, the culture. So that's where we in MDI thought it would be good to bring Alexander and me to come from on behalf of MDI, because we know the region, but we also know what's happening in Britain or some other countries. Then Laurie comes as someone with completely different experience, or maybe not after we've heard him actually. There are so many similarities. But he can have a distance that maybe we people from the region cannot have. We can be quite emotional about, what we do. I did prepare the presentation because that's what I promised to my colleagues from the school, but I've been listening to you today and you and the other speakers, and I really feel that I should say something which is not in my presentation, and this is that I'm really pleased that there are so many young people sitting here who I hope have benefited from this 3 years program as much as this fantastic Theodora who was sitting here. And I was listening to Theodora and I was thinking, if we just can associate ourselves with Theodora, we can say we've done a great job. But I can see that there are much more Theodoras and Theodors around here, and I hope that next time we are sitting together, you would not come to us to ask us, oh, how can we do school paper? Do it yourself. My generation, when we started thinking about the world, the only way and the only information I needed about someone when, I was interested in a boy, I would say, do you have his telephone number or address? Actually, where I was born in Belgrade, but part of Belgrade which even didn't have a fixed phone line. So I had to learn how to whistle to communicate with my best friend who was living on the 9th floor. So now when I need to get in touch with someone, I have to go to LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Skype, Facebook, email, and you cannot really decide where to find people. So it's much more complicated for my generation, for your generation, guys. It's natural to have all these channels to communicate. But is it easier? No, it's not. Even when people have good intentions, this is how we end sometimes. And I want to share with you this example because it comes from the United Nations. And we all believe, and rightly so, that, it's a great intergovernmental body. But when in 2016 they decided to have a woman ambassador for gender policies they wanted to push for, this is the creature they decided to represent, to be the ambassador, gender ambassador of the UN. And I'm sure that most of you know who's this on this picture. Is this a real woman? Is this a real woman? No, it's a character from a film from a film, Wonder Woman. So someone in the UN who was supposed to create the whole concept of, pushing for gender and, women, and we are there, comes with a fictional character as if there are not enough real women who can represent real women. So the intention was great, and the Buddhists would say, well, the intention matters, but, well, not always, because this ended really in a disaster, because women working in the UN protested, like, this is not what we want to be, who we want to represent us. My topic is to talk about how NGOs or non-governmental world communicate, or, what is the relationship between media platforms, media people, media actors, and a non-governmental world. So I wanted just to make a couple of points here and then go back to what I heard from you. We believe strongly as a project, as colleagues, partners in this project, but also MDI, we've been pushing that from the beginning. There are no good results in anything, particularly in this important field such as media information literacy, without multi-stakeholders work together. And that's why it is important that teachers are sitting here. And believe me, in some countries where we work, it's so hard to get teachers get involved in this. For many reasons, many very good reasons. They are overwhelmed, you are overwhelmed with the work. There is constantly some, out-of-school activities. The payment is modest, if not miserable. You deal with teenagers, hormonal teenagers, which is not easy. I've been a teacher in my life too, among the other professions. So it's fantastic that you've been through all this with us for 3 years. You haven't given up. And you brought up these students, pupils who do understand the importance of media literacy and who would impose to all of us, not only to teachers, but to all of us, what you need, and what we should then offer to you. But please keep in mind, you have to lead, you young people, because this is for you a natural kind of world. We can just help you with our experience. You have to come yourself, set up, your media outlet, your Facebook group, and, be careful how to use them in responsible way, and that's where we can help with. One thing we haven't mentioned today, and I think it's very important, public broadcasters, public broadcast media, public services. There is a difference between commercial media and public service media, which we pay from our taxpayers' money. So whatever our governments in Britain, or wherever, Serbia, Macedonia say, it's our taxpayers' money, and we deserve to be reflected in those media. We deserve to be included, our voices in those media, but we need to help them, particularly organizations which work already with media, help public services really do their job, which would be in our interest, not in the interest of any political parties, which is hard everywhere. And I'll start with Britain, because you all know what's happening with Brexit. And I never thought it would be happening in a country with such a long democracy. I was wrong. I think we've talked a lot about diversity, but more about diversity as, diversity of media. For Media Diversity Institute, when we say diversity, we mean race, ethnicity, gender, religion, sexual orientation, language, with whatever makes us different from each other, but equal, different but equal. And that's again where media information literacy is very important, that we learn that media should be inclusive of all voices. That's the basic value or principle of democracy. And you have a new government, and it seems there is a a lot of positive thinking about what's happening in Macedonia, so it's now your time to get with something new and continue this project. To go back to the topic Sashka gave me, Alexandra from the school, relationship between non-governmental organizations and the media. My background is in journalism, as Mihailo said. So for me as a journalist, particularly born or started to work as a journalist in a very non-democratic society, non-governmental organizations have always been source of information I could not find in official sources. And that's so important in closed societies. That's where you can get information. Again, trying always to find a good story. You go to non-governmental organizations, that's where you can get fantastic story ideas, heroes for your stories. You go there and said, you know, particularly when we are lazy, we go there and say, can you find me some interesting person, you know, from your field or your depending, and you get fantastic contacts. Not only that you get the contacts, but actually NGOs help you building trust with your heroes because they know already these people. Let's say, like, you know, there are houses for women who suffered, you know, domestic violence. So to go and talk to these women, if you have been not introduced by someone they already trust, because they've lost trust in many people. So it's very important, you know, so NGOs can help a lot. Could we have the opposite benefits? Of course, yes. Of course, yes, you know, but much more NGOs benefited from media, from journalists before the internet. At that time, we, the NGO people, now I'm wearing the NGO hat, we would wait for journalists to come to us, you know, to impose the topics, to impose the ideas they wanted us to talk about. And we had to be very cooperative to have 1 minute or 15 seconds in the news, primetime news bulletin. Things have changed since the internet. Now we have, you know, NGOs so powerful or so knowledgeable in using the media that they're imposing agendas to the, not only to the media profession, but to the governments. And I'll give you an example from Britain, plastic bags. You know, we all know how bad plastic is for the world, for the, you know, planet. It was only when NGOs started pushing for, you know, lowering the amount of plastic bags. When they started filming, you know, showing the videos of Tesco, big supermarket chain, look at all these bags in their parking place flying around, Tesco got embarrassed. So now we have to pay only 5 pence, which is really small amount. Still, since that was introduced, that you pay for bags, the percentage of bags used in Britain dropped 95%. Just for this, because you have to pay. So this came from NGOs. So yes, we still as NGOs can benefit from journalists. We have to keep good relationship, but we now also have social media to use. The problem with use of social media, before the internet, we would tell people coming from minorities, you know, organizations, we would say, you know, you have to find a way to communicate with journalists, to get them, you know, your voice into their media. Then the social media appeared, the internet and social media, and say, wow, now, you know, democratization of information, everyone can have a voice. Yes, everyone can have a voice. The problem is now, as someone said, we have to find the ear to listen to us. And I'm back to the beginning, you know, how do you find people you want to communicate? You live in your little bubble with your group of friends, or it's called bubble, echo chamber. So, but it's called, some people call it homophily. So you're like gathered in one group, and the communication between groups is almost completely broken. That's how easily then fake news works because we, share it or not share it between each other. I think I should stop here because I'm a very talkative person, as you can see, and maybe just say something more. We all know that first fake news, which people paid for through advertising, came from Macedonia, from young people. So use your creativity to help the world, spread good news. Not only what in Britain we are not supposed anymore to use the word fake news, but misinformation. It is the recommendation from our government.